Hello, everybody. It is me, and I am back for another update. Honestly, nothing really too exciting going on. I did get my order from Vistaprint, which was really nice. Just open up the box and see stuff with my logo and everything on it. So that was pretty fun. I got a couple t-shirts and just some business cards. A couple other things, but just kept it small. Don't have a lot of seed money, so I didn't want to splurge on, you know, little things like, too many things like that, because Vistaprint can get really expensive, but excited nonetheless. What else? School's going okay. Definitely about to get jump started with a lot of projects. If I had to choose between projects and exams, though, I think I'm pretty okay with the projects. It requires you to do a lot more work up front, but, on the back end, it'll make the end of the semester a lot easier. So, just looking forward to knocking some of that stuff out. We have to do a really cool project on the reliability of fingerprint evidence. And so learning a lot about that. My professor, she actually, one, is the author of our textbook, which is really cool. So really learning from the best of them. And she's done a lot of treatises and is that right? Treatises? Sorry, not treaties, treatises. She's done a lot of publications and articles and things like that on these different forms of evidence and how in recent years a lot of forensic science that has been relied upon for convictions, they're really starting to see that it's not everything that it's been cracked up to be. And so, it has some faulty case law, or, when it comes to the initial case that set precedents that really didn't, properly scrutinize the fingerprint evidence. The first case was from 1911 or something like that. A black guy who allegedly murdered a white guy. And so, they basically was this evidence is admissible. And then everybody just kind of used that case as precedence. Even though it's been, we've had Daubert and all that stuff that's come about, they still haven't properly analyzed it, analyze this type of, forensic evidence under those Daubert standards and the Daubert trilogy and all that stuff. So if you're not a law student, you probably don't know anything about what I'm talking about, but whatever it is, it's just been cool. So I'm excited to write that paper, and I have some other simulation courses that are going to require us to produce some, documentation, which is real stuff that we can use as writing samples for when we're applying for jobs and more clerkships and internships for more experience. So, it's a stressful process, very anxiety provoking, but no, I don't want to say that. It's not very anxiety provoking. It's just a lot. It's just a huge load to carry, and it can take a lot out of you. And so, I'm grateful that I'm starting to get to a place where, even though I'm still needing to get a little more organized and disciplined in how I execute, my, assignments, it's a good feeling to feel man, I really do belong here. You know what I'm saying? That's a good feeling for me. And, I have a lot of good support behind me. And so that's been helpful. Some people who don't support it, but that's okay too. Because what's most important is that I got a yes from God and that I see the vision. I love that I saw somebody post online that your conversation with God was not a conference call. And so, I remember just getting challenged in that arena and people just kind of telling me that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or that I jumped on things too soon. And, it was very discouraging. It hurt. And, honestly, made me extremely emotional, because it's the people who you think should support you the most that oftentimes don't support you, as you're moving forward. And so, it was a little emotional for a while. And so it's just a lot to carry, and it's you want to do well for family. Family sometimes, it's a little weird about it. And then, you just want people to see better and to have better. And, sometimes you get a lot of pushback, but, the reality is, again, it's something that you have to see. It's not something for everybody else to see. And so, if you hear God's voice, God's voice, follow his voice, and, don't let anybody deter you. And so a lot of people who care about you will say some things that are out of line. And, but if you hear God's voice and you know that you did what he told you to do, that's what you stick with. So, but yeah, so that stuff is going along. I haven't, or excuse me, that stuff is coming along. Excuse my grammar. Other than that, I haven't been doing much of anything. Like, I'm supposed to be in the gym, but I got a little sick over spring break. Our spring break for school was last week. And, a new development was me throwing up, which is not something that's happened before. And so somebody said a bug is going around, but I can't necessarily distinguish if it's that or if it's the stuff that I've been dealing with. And so the one downside to not working is the insurance aspect. And because I don't have a lot of business money, I don't have the ability to purchase insurance for myself through the business. And so had to apply for some government insurance, but that's going to take a little while to kick in. But, I just really want to get this whole thing worked out so that I could just move forward. But part of it too is really working on my health. I really got to start getting back to all the stuff I've been saying, eating right, exercising, and, I have stuff here, even if I don't go to the gym, I literally have a treadmill. I have a bench, I have small weights, not a lot, nothing like you would get at a gym. I have videos, exercise pad or whatever. If I could get with it, if I really wanted to. So I have to just stop making excuses and just go for it. And so, again, that's part of the reasons I want to do these videos, because every week I think about, all right, Ash, you could be doing better than what you're doing. So, just trying to take things day by day, step by step. Funds are getting a little low, which is okay. When I tell y'all, my pastor's advice about having peace in your decision, I'm telling you, it was grade A, chef's kiss. Because there was a time in my life where I will full-blown panic over not knowing what to do. And even though I've had my time of praying and crying about this whole process and determining whether or not I wanted to leave my job, if you follow the story, from one of the first or second video, I kind of explained what was going on. And my bishop prayed over me and he said, listen, you're not going to have fear of the future. And I'm like, man, and that peace that just came over me. I was so sure, after everything I heard and saw that night, that, my heart was in the right place and that I knew that I was supposed to be taking this step. And y'all, I'm chilling. I'm not panicked. I'm not worried about losing my house or losing my car. I hope to stay this way. Don't want anything to come in and just kind of deter me from that emotionally or mentally. But for the most part, I'm really chilling, and so that makes me very happy. And so, and maybe that's why I'm moving a little slow. I still need to get a little hustle, a little fire up under me, but yeah, but resources aren't going to last forever. And however God wants to bless me in this next stage is fine. But my clerkship will help, finally getting all these permits and stuff like that, figuring stuff out, doing, rearrange. Listen, this permit application, I had to get a dog gate so that my dog can't get into the kitchen. I have to repaint with hygiene coated paint, which is a very expensive paint. Had to take all my stuff out of my cabinets and literally rearrange everything because I cannot mix the items that I bake with the items, for a business, with the items that I bake with for myself. I can't share any of that. And so I had to separate things out, reorganize, designate certain cabinets for certain things and, just really figure this whole thing out. And so that took up a large portion too of my spring break. So it wasn't completely unproductive, but when I got sick, it definitely took me down. But yeah, so it's just, but I'm learning a lot, and I think is really cool about it. And so, I look forward to other things that I have to learn. And so I think the next phase for me as I'm working on this permit, this all of these permits is just, you know, really creating like a menu of items that I have. So like getting some of these pictures off my phone and coming up with a menu and prices. I don't do well with pricing because I tend to, it's not that I undervalue my product, it's that I think I overly value the people that I sell to. I feel like coming up as a person who didn't have much, you know, my mother had 5 children. There were a lot of us in the house. She took care of us on her income alone. And, you know, when you have seen struggle, when you have lived struggle, both through the eyes of your parent and in your own way, my heart is I don't want to price people out of being able to enjoy what I'm able to produce. And so it's like, how do I set these prices knowing that people who look like me and some people who don't, you know, but because of the area that I'm in, it's predominantly African American, you know, just struggling with this notion of pricing my people out of products and services. And so that is a really hard thing for me. But on the other hand, you know, I resonate with what Steve Harvey said. His mother used to tell him the best way to help people, the best way to help poor people is not to be one, you know. And so I know that there are people out there who can afford, you know, the things that I'm going to sell. And so it's just that, you know, thing there. So, you know, it's easy. Okay, these are the ingredients. This is how much it'll cost per unit. You know, this is how much I'm going to charge for my time. This is how much delivery is. This is gas. This is, you know, water. This is, you know, light and electricity and all that stuff. And like, it's easy to quantify all of that and put that into a number and say, hey, this is what the price is based upon those things. But there's a lot of subjective perspective that I think I put into that, and it has the potential to hinder. And, you know, having to be mindful though, like again, like this is literally going to be my bread and butter, and so at least for now, and that it is okay for me to price not only what it's worth, but to create a price that'll help me, you know, because I used to be one of those people like, why is this so expensive? Why is it so high? Like I wish I could pay for it, you know. So it's something to think about. And so, you know, and I hate to be one of the ones, well, tell me how much you make and I'll give you a discount. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I have to figure it out some way, shape, or form. But I just really have a heart for people. And again, I know what it's like to not have. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to worry about where your next meal is going to come from and how you're going to make ends meet. You know, again, one, through the eyes of my family, but in two, in my own experience in adulthood, you know, just really wanting to have access to things that are just beyond your reach. And then to turn around and then to perpetuate that onto somebody else is something that I struggle with. And it's even more difficult, you know, with Black businesses, because I see people like that all the time and like, how are you going to ask me for something for free? Or how are you going, you know what I mean? Like, you know, if it was a white person, you pay for it. Or if you went to this store, if you went there, you would pay for it. Like, why you want to, you know, jip me? And, you know, I get like a Target has thousands of stores all over the country, you know, and so they can afford to have cheaper prices, right? You know, they manufacture a lot of their own products, you know, just like most, you know, major stores, Walmart or Giant Eagle, you know, most people will come up with their Amazon, you know, they come up with their own brand of things. And because they cut out the middle person, you know, they can sell it for cheap. But they also have the income and the resources to pay for all of the things that come with that, you know, paying their employees, paying their bills, you know. When you're a small business and a small, you know, like just organization, you know, you don't have access to those resources, so you can't always afford to be so generous. And so I get these things intellectually. It's just getting my heart to understand that it's okay, you know, and again, that there are people out there who can help, you know, who can pay, and that, you know, it's a good product, it's quality, you know, and there's a lot of love that goes into it. And so it's worth what I would sell it for, you know, but just getting my mind wrapped around this idea that some people may not be able to afford it, and, you know, just dealing with the hypocrisy of complaining about that for so many years and then turning around and doing it myself. So, but also, we come into knowledge of things. When I was younger, I didn't know what went into a business. I didn't know about all the expenses that came with making something as simple as a cake. You know what I mean? I didn't know. And so maybe that's where that's coming from. But, I do know now, so still something to grapple with. But at any rate, I'm sure I'm not the only person in business who has gone through that. So I want to stop this video because we are at 15 minutes and I know y'all don't want to hear me rant, all day or all night. And so with that, I did want to talk about one more thing. So it's going to be a little longer, but I got an email from a student I used to work with. And when I tell you, it just hurt me that I couldn't meet with him. I'm not saying I regret what I did, but it's one of those things, context. One of the things that my supervisor told me when they were kind of like sending me off, she was like, you do so much for so many people. And like even my director, and this was such a compliment for me. Some people might not care so much, but for me, it was a compliment. Like for people to really recognize that I was a woman of faith. Like that was my legacy that I left, and that everything I did for those students, like I literally gave my all, even to the point where I could have gotten into trouble for some things because I really believed in those students and really wanted to help make sure that they were okay. And so for my supervisors and my directors to say, like, you were just selfless, like, we just see the love of Christ in you. You would just give so much for yourself, to like everybody else. And so my direct supervisor, who I sat with, who's my triage director and trainer and supervisor, she, she was saying how proud of me she was for finally making this step for myself. Or for finally doing something for myself, like taking this step. And I'm like, cool. And so when the student reached out to me today, I'm like, it's like, there's still part of me that wants to just go back, still have those questions of why I did what I did. And like the fact that I just could not help this person. And then another part of me was like, typing like, I'll just keep me updated, keep me posted, I'll check in. But it's like, you don't have that access anymore and you're not supposed to. And even if you did, like, you got to let that go. It's like, that's the old or former season. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in a new season and it's okay to let go. And because I know this person's story to some degree, I do have concerns. And, I connected them with another counselor, but it's like, I have to let it go after that. And so that's something else that I found that I struggle with. It is really okay to take care of myself. It is really okay to do what I need to do to accomplish the vision that God put on my heart in this season. It may seem selfish to some, but it's so necessary for me at this time. And, you just have to commit. You have to burn the bridges, you have to burn the boats, once you're there, you have to commit. And so, and doesn't mean like you don't care for people, you don't love people, that you don't want to, see the best outcome for people. But you recognize that even though that may be your desire, it's not your role anymore, to make sure that that happens. And so let me take ownership of that statement. It is not my role anymore to make sure that that happens. And so I don't know who else is struggling with it. I'm sure some people have, but, there's this element of just mourning your old identity, right? And I know I asked that question when I was grappling with the choice to leave my job. Who would I be if I couldn't tell people that I was a therapist? And technically I'm still a therapist. My degree is on the wall. I've earned the rights, to be a counselor, and I still am one. I'm just not working in that capacity, anymore. And so, with that, it's just learning how to adjust and, keep things in right perspective. and just pushing towards the goal. And so definitely going to be something that I continue to work through, but I just thought I would mention that in case anybody else was in that same place. You are allowed to do what you need to do to accomplish the vision that God put on your heart. And you know, every good thing is not a God thing. And there are going to be some seasons in your life where you have to refer and you have to delegate things to others, so that you don't get taken off guard or, you know, thrown off kilter. But that, you know, just recognizing too that God is ultimately the Father, and it's ultimately his job to take care of everybody. And so you may play a small role in that, but you can't be that for everybody, especially at the detriment of your purpose and your vision. So, you know, we find a balance in things, you know, we find the lessons in things, and we go from there. But I wish you all would have a wonderful and blessed week, that you do something special for yourself. I'm not going to lie, even with all my stomach issues, I want some ice cream. I've been craving ice cream for the last 3 weeks, and maybe that's just what I need. I found out our bodies are very intelligent, and while some things are, you know, bad, like you shouldn't be eating a bunch of junk, I've noticed that there are particular situations where my body will start to crave things based upon what I need. I remember one time, like, I really needed some sweet potatoes. I was having joint issues, and, you know, it was freezing one time. Like, you know, I really want some beef. It's like sometimes, like, your body just really knows what it needs. And so I'm just going to use that as my rationalization to get me some ice cream, even though my little chunky butt needs to be in a gym. But y'all have a good one. I want to end this video because it's much longer than I usually make them. So, but thanks for listening. Have a good one, and I'll be back next week. Bye.